Welcome to How to Map the Customer Journey from SilverTech. We are a digital marketing agency working to redefine how businesses engage with and understand their customers. To get the most out of today's webinar, here are a few tips. The presentation will last 30 minutes, the Q&A will follow, post questions in the webinar chat pane for us, and your participation in the customer journey poll will be greatly appreciated. These slides, recording, and tools will be made available after the broadcast. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm your host, Ian Hughes, content strategist here at SilverTech, write for SilverTech's blog, podcast, and webinars, joined today by Samantha Maltus, our principal strategist and customer journey expert. Sam recently named recipient of one of New Hampshire's highest honors for young professionals, Union Leaders 40 Under 40, and she's an in-demand speaker at digital marketing conferences, having recently been featured at Digital Summit Philadelphia. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you, Ian.
This is the second in our Lead to Loyal series. A Lead to Loyal allows marketers to navigate and optimize the customer experience better than ever before. By understanding each individual customer interaction, SilverTech drives engagement with integrated business intelligence to enhance both customer-facing and internal user experiences. So on the agenda for today, we have customer experience, CX versus user experience. Why do I need a customer journey map? The essential elements of journey mapping, and how to implement a customer journey strategy.
So we'd like to just check in with everyone who's here listening right now before we dive in. So let's just do a quick show of hands. Have you started to map the customer journey yet? So if you could just select yes, we have customer journey maps, or no, not yet, but it's something that we're really interested in looking to do in the future. So we are going to just wait 1 second while everyone has an opportunity to put in their answers. Leave it open for a few more seconds. All right, so we're going to close that up and show you the results of the poll. So it looks like a little bit under, so a little over 33%, so a third of you, actually exactly a third of you have said yes, you are, and then 2/3 of you are saying no, not yet. So this is actually the breakdown that we typically see. So when we typically give these discussions, it's normally a third of folks saying yes, we've started and are maybe looking for some additional tips, and then 2/3 saying no, not yet. So very common for what we end up seeing as we do these things. So great. All right, so with that then we'll move on to the differences between customer experience and user experience, especially since most of what we do or what you hear is user experience. So we'll move into that.
Though it may go by different names, customer, user, or buyer's journey, the goal is really the same: to better understand the myriad interactions your potential customers have with your brand. So we'll refer to customer journey and customer journey mapping throughout this webinar, but our intention is to refer to any type of multi-dimensional map that helps you understand your users' flow as they engage with your product or service.
So if you're a higher education institution or a hospital or a health system, it's perfectly acceptable to swap customer or buyer for student or patient. So there is an important distinction, though, to be made between customer, buyer, student, patient, and user. So the first four that I gave are actually customers. User is more the user experience. So we'll talk about that a little bit here.
So in the user experience world, user experience accounts for only a portion of the customer, buyer, student, patient experience. When our designers at SilverTech, for example, are designing a university homepage or a patient portal, they're concerned with the usability and functionality of a piece of the overall experience. So as integral as the homepage or portal are to a positive experience, they represent only one of the possible touch points where your potential customers will interact with you. Sam, any insight you can share on CX versus UX?
Yeah, so a little bit of both. So you know how a square is a type of a rectangle, but rectangles are not all squares. I think that pretty much fits here with user experience and customer experience too. So when you're talking about user experience, you're talking about basically on the web. So you're talking about usability, interaction design, visual design, information architecture. So the things that you can tangibly see online. But that's only one very small part, and we're actually going to give some examples here in just a minute of what the overall customer experience is with your brand. So it's basically an offline customer experience versus an online user experience. So actually, Ian, I think you had a great story about Starbucks that would make great sense here.
Yeah, here's an example. So I enjoy Starbucks coffee, so much so that I use the mobile app to buy coffee every day. So today, as I approached the drive-through window, I realized my balance was low. So I go to reload my card, but the transaction times out, and I don't get a clear message of whether my credit card has been charged, whether it's actually gone through. So here I'm having a bad user experience. But when I get to the window, I explain to my barista my frustrations with the app, it's not working. They empathize, they offer me a phone number to call for support, and then they say, hey, today's coffee's on us. So that's a good user experience. So the
Good
app
customer.
Good
Good customer. Sorry to
customer
confuse you.
So bad user experience with the app, good customer experience overall with how I was treated when I got to the window.
Right, and I have an example too. So this is with a healthcare provider. So my primary care provider just unveiled a new website, which I was very excited about, with a new responsive patient portal. And so my time is close to my annual physical, so I logged into the mobile phone and scheduled an appointment, which was exciting for me. I'd never been able to do that with my healthcare institution. So that was a good user experience. It was very well designed. But the day of my appointment came, and I went to my physician's office. When I got there, they had no record of my appointment whatsoever and couldn't get me in until the following week. So that's an example of a bad patient overall experience. So I hope that helps to demonstrate a little bit more about the differences between customer experience and user experience.
Thank you, Sam. So why do I need a customer journey map? Well, a customer journey map helps solve problems for our customers at every point that they interact with your brand. It's an invaluable tool in improving the overall experience. Sam, is it possible or even worthwhile to attempt to map every possible experience and every possible touch point?
So the short answer is no. I think we'd all go crazy if we tried to do that. So basically the same way, we talked a lot about personas in our last webinar, and that is available for on-demand download if you'd like to take a look at that. Personas, what you really are looking for is 5 to 7 people who are really a good example of your audience. Same thing here with the journey maps. You're probably looking to build 5 to 7 of them. I know we're going to talk about that in a minute, but they're basically representations of general paths and lowest common denominator that you're looking for your audiences to take. You're not trying to basically map out a bowl of spaghetti and figure out where everyone needs to be and what all the different stops are.
Right. So here's an example. Here's how Starbucks would map the experience for a customer like myself. So note the multi-dimensional elements of the map. So at the bottom of the map, we describe the literal journey of the customer from the office through to the cafe. And then the bold line represents the customer's state of mind at each point of the journey. So, and then above that, we identify elements that enrich the experience. Sam, anything jump out at you?
Yeah, so I love the Starbucks map for a couple different reasons. So the biggest reason that I like it is because they're looking at the full customer journey. So that anticipate and enter point. So before anyone at Starbucks even has an opportunity to engage with this person, this audience member, they're already figuring out what the best experience is for them. Obviously, the biggest point of when Starbucks has a opportunity to provide an excellent experience is during that engagement portion. But then they also look at the exit and reflection point, which is very good. But the other thing I really like about the Starbucks map is if you notice on the left-hand side, it says poached experience and then enriched experience. So essentially what they do with this is they show it to their employees and say, here's what will make for a bad experience at each stage of this journey. This is what we are trying to make sure we overcome and do the exact opposite of that. And it shows what the enriched experience would look like. So ultimately, for those of us that joined the Personas webinar last month, we're looking for that enriched experience to really be the continuation of that ideal online experience or ideal experience that we created in those personas.
Excellent, thank you.
Yes.
So here's another example. The Starbucks example was kind of the timeline version of a customer journey map. And this is another off-sided example. This is Lego, and this is a wheel journey map. So customer journey maps, they can be cradle to grave where they account for every possible touch point, which we've talked against, or they can map out a specific experience with your brand. So the Lego example here maps the specific experience of a visiting executive. So though the format differs from the Starbucks, it still has kind of a physical journey. the emotional state, and kind of what's happening at each of those touch points.
And this one always makes me laugh because this is probably not an audience member that Lego actually has. Lego keeps their customer journey maps pretty close. So this was one example that they wanted to give and show just so that people could get an idea of how they look at their journey maps. But I thought it was a great example when Ian brought it to me, just because it's kind of a fun way to show that information. So for brands that are listening now that have not so much of a rigid, but more of a circular kind of format, this is a great example for you to maybe follow.
And in looking at the Lego and looking at the Starbucks, they both actually, in the way they present themselves, carry the brands of each of the...
Yeah, no, I love that.
Partner insight. So whether it's a wheel or a timeline, here's the main reason you need a customer journey map. Customer expectations are changing, and customers in 2017, they expect brands to deliver service and value in any channel, irrespective of the channel or what kind of industry or product your brand represents. As customer expectations change, a new commercial prize is becoming clear. Customer experience is the battleground for competitive advantage, where customers will be won or lost, and that's from our partners over at Thunderhead. We'll hear a little more from them later in the presentation. So why do I need a customer journey map? Again, in the first webinar of our Lead to Loyal series, we went through the steps to develop personas, fictitious representations of your audience, and well thought out personas, we concluded, are the foundation to personalized one-to-one communication. Customer journey really builds upon that to kind of give your persona's ideal experience and really takes your persona development to the next level. Question then is, how many maps should I create? And Sam touched on this earlier. Of primary importance, I think, to the digital marketer is the experience your potential customers and customers have with your website. We recommend that you map the ideal experience on your website for each of your personas. So in our last webinar, we determined that 5 to 7 personas was the right amount for most organizations. So at a minimum, you should have 5 to 7 maps. However, to answer how many maps you should create really depends on how many experiences you want to improve. For example, a bank or a credit union, in addition to the website journey, may also want to map the in-branch new account opening process, where a customer enters the branch, again, they're greeted in the lobby, they wait, they're taken in by a banker, open the account. I think the advantage of mapping kind of the physical experience with the online experience of the account opening, you get to see if you're kind of giving the same experience to your customers online and off. So, how long does it take to open the account in branch versus how long online? So there are advantages to doing more than the 5 to 7, but at a minimum, I think that's where you want to start.
That's a great point, Ian. And I love the idea of connecting the offline and the online. So when people are walking into your branch versus online as well, that's so important when you're working with customers.
Another partner insight, this from our partners over at Salesforce. Among high-performing teams, 88% say a customer journey strategy is critical to the success of their overall marketing. Further, 73% of marketing leaders say that a customer journey strategy has positively impacted overall customer engagement. I think this is really where we're going to see kind of the top high-performing marketing teams really separate from those that aren't doing this sort of work.
Right, and not just marketing teams, really. We're going to talk a little bit about what kind of a rollout these need to have. It's really your entire team when you start to map that ideal experience.
Let's now get into the essential elements of a customer journey map. So, though as we discussed, a customer journey map may take different forms, we at SilverTech typically use the timeline, and we have identified 5 essential elements of a successful journey map. They are persona, stage, action, emotion, and touch point, supporting content and features, and insights and opportunities. So we'll go through each of those elements and describe in more detail. First up is the persona. This is Focus Fran. We talked about Focus Fran in our personas webinar. And this is the element here from the customer journey map that is related back to the persona. And again, personas are fictitious representations of your audience, typically a 1 to 2 page document that includes the following 5 essential elements themselves. That's demographics, Focus Fran, 17 years old, background, motivations, influences, frustrations, barriers, and the ideal online experience. Now again, we might be going through this section at a good pace, but you'll have the slides and you'll have the on-demand webinar to take a look at yourself. Next up is stage. In the customer journey map, this is the timeline portion and represents where in the decision-making journey your customers are. So our partners at HubSpot have identified three main stages that I'm sure you're all aware of at this point. There's your awareness stage. Buyers identify their challenge or an opportunity they want to pursue. Consideration. Buyers have clearly defined their goal or challenge and have committed to addressing it. And decision. Buyers have already entered or decided on a solution category. So we like to go a step further. I think there's value in considering a post-purchase stage. Sam, thoughts here, why it's important to consider a post-purchase stage as you're mapping your journey?
Yeah, and when you're creating these too, or working with somebody to help create these for you, you can change these stage names to anything that makes it sense for your internal audiences. So these are just kind of those main guiding ideas. So to answer your question about a post-purchase stage, the reason that we love to include that is the same reason that Starbucks really wanted to include that. Most folks, when they are looking for a new good or a new service, they actually ask for recommendations first, and they ask for recommendations from friends and family. So the people who are most likely to give those recommendations are people who are very happy, and those are the folks that have had an interaction with your brand post that engagement. So say, for example, my husband and I just bought a couch, right? So the retailer that we bought it from could have very easily have left it at just, okay, we bought a couch, and we received a thank you card, and because it was a smaller mom and pop, we actually received so we received a thank you call, a thank you card, and we actually received a gift card too for a local restaurant. So all very, very nice things, and just kind of added to that additional goodwill. So we'll be sending people to that particular retailer. So that's just one example of one particular solution for that post-buying stage, but I think it is very important to continue that.
Vital to the journey.
Vital, yes.
Then we have the action, emotion, and touch point stage. This is the area of your customer journey map where you're looking to describe the action, entering a branch, researching on your mobile phone, and the state of mind as they interact with a particular touch point, your website, mobile app, or physical location.
Emotion is a critical piece of this step, but one that is often overlooked. And we know that when we engage with people in a one-to-one situation in real life, that emotion affects our tone of voice and our physical posture. By including the emotional state, say frustrated or nervous, you can tailor the message to that particular touch point so that it is better received by your customer.
Excellent. The next element of the map is the supporting content and features. So what content works best at this point in the map, and what features should it have? So awareness content is typically going to take the form of a white paper, checklist, or how-to video that answers and educates. Consideration content is going to be your webinars, case studies, or FAQs. Decision content takes a trial, demo, consultation. And then that post-purchase content Sam was referring to takes the form of maybe a survey, a special offer, or referral bonus. So with the added dimension of action, emotion, and touch point, you can ensure that the tone and presentation of your content is appropriate. Then we have the insights and opportunities section of the map. So what can you do to really win over your customer? And this is also where you can identify whether the interaction has any offstage elements. An onstage interaction is one that takes place in front of your customers. And an offstage interaction is one that goes on behind the scenes. For example, a customer reads a blog post, signs up for your newsletter. That's on stage. That form fill that triggers enrollment in your newsletter list so that your customer can receive that email, that expected delivery, when the next blog post is published, is offstage. So Sam, any further insight you can offer here between onstage and offstage?
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite sections because this is where you are really allowed to go above and beyond, right? So one of the companies that does this the best, in fact, they probably are the standard for excellent customer service and customer experience, is actually Disney. And I was there not too long ago in January for a conference. And just to give you an example of great onstage versus offstage, all of their team members are called cast members. Even the folks who worked the banquet hall were called cast members. And there was one point where I was in a buffet line and the gentleman in front of me actually was struggling trying to get food onto his plate using a spoon. And out of nowhere, from behind us, came the banquet manager with a pair of tongs to offer to him. She had seen him struggle, and he was able to it was something very simple, pick that up. But really interesting in terms of every single detail. So the other thing that's really important to note here is that don't underestimate. There are some small things that make a really big difference. So no matter what, don't underestimate what could potentially lead someone to have a really great experience with your brand. It could be as simple as a spoon.
Right. And I don't think you'll realize that until you actually sit down and map it out.
Yes.
As we'll get to, we have a good example coming up.
Yeah.
So how to implement a customer journey strategy. The first thing you really need to do is just believe in the value of customer journey mapping. Here's an example that I think will help us get there. So customer journey mapping, it's imperfect. You can't possibly map every single interaction, every single touch point. But take, for example, though, this seemingly simple customer journey of a gumball experience. So at first thought, you might be inclined to think, well, it's only got 2 steps. You put a coin in and you get a gumball. But what happens if the machine breaks? Where does the customer go? And do you have a process in place? So you can see here, the customer approaches, sees the gumball machine, inserts coin, turns handle, gumball comes out. That's the experience we think, but what happens then if the machine jams? Is the customer going to walk away or approach the cashier? What happens when they approach the cashier? Does the cashier involve the manager or refund the money? So there's all these different things that you can start to think about to improve the experience once you actually just kind of map things out. Thoughts on the gumball?
I love the gumball. I think this is a great example of something that's very, very simple that can become very, very complicated very quickly. Obviously, this is something, we walk by gumball machines all the time, and no one ever really thinks of that being an actual customer experience. This is also a good example of how you can become very minute very, very quickly in terms of what you do. So there does need to be a really good balance, but I think this gives a good example to the point about don't underestimate the small things. This is a great way to kind of illustrate that. If this is the one experience that person has with your brand, that is what's going to determine whether or not it's positive or negative. So always think about that as you're making these maps.
So again, just believe in the value of the customer journey mapping. Just as personas are used to represent a segment of your audience and cannot and should not fully represent every single member of your audience, a customer journey map is used to represent the main flows that your users take. It's not necessary to get to a quantum level and map every possible scenario. In the gumball experience, for example, there's no need to map the scenario of, say, every gumball spilling out of the machine, rolling across the floor, and tripping customers as they enter.
No.
But as long as you become aware of the main possible flows, touch points, and emotions at each stop, there'll be value in this exercise. Mm-hmm. Again, how to implement customer journey, you've got to include your team. Just as when you create your personas, you want to include your team, it's critical to do the same here. One of the main purposes of personas and customer journey mapping is to avoid self-referential design or content creation. So interview your sales team, interview your customer service team to get their input into the user's flow and their state of mind. And that way you'll avoid focusing too heavily on your own expectations and biases. They are the ones interacting with the customers on stage and off, and will likely have the most input into what happens at a particular touch point. Sam, we talked about a grand rollout for personas. Should your maps get the same treatment?
Absolutely. So the biggest reason that you're putting together this customer journey map is so that everyone can be on board and execute on that map, execute on that ideal experience. So the more times that you can get these maps in front of your team members, the better. And it also can help a lot in the training. When you bring new team members on board, when you're trying to get folks who maybe even been there a while to provide a little bit of a different customer, better customer experience, these are great ways to do that in a non kind of confrontational way. They actually, because it puts the customer journey is in the eye of the customer, it's actually saying, oh, people can empathize a lot more with them than maybe what they would have without them. So it's a really interesting kind of visualization that helps them to provide that experience.
Yeah, kind of shift your perspective to the customer's experience.
Yeah.
So don't be intimidated by customer journey mapping. It can take many different forms, and the template we'll provide at the end of our session today might not be a perfect fit for your organization, but our hope is that it will alert you to the main elements of a customer journey map, and it'll be flexible enough for you to customize for your specific needs.
I can't echo enough, don't be intimidated by customer journey mapping. There's a myriad of ways to do it, and it can be indefinitely complex. So starting simple will improve your marketing. So it's basically start somewhere and you'll increase your bottom line. So the goal is to improve the customer experience. So that's something to remember, even if it's just a little bit, you're always improving. And by identifying the ideal experience at each touch point and identifying what touch point comes next, you're already really taking great leaps to do that.
Here's one of what I think is one of the main outputs from a customer journey map is a content gap analysis. By mapping out the experience, you get to see kind of what content you have and what content you might need. Sam, any input here on what a content gap analysis is and how it can benefit you?
Yes. So a few different things here. So all of these pieces kind of build on each other. So you go from personas, then you go to customer journey map, and then you go to content gap analysis. So for this, folks, this is a little bit more in-depth marketing. So we're getting into the details now. But once you have that customer journey map, it's very easy to understand what would help folks get from one stage to the next and what may make them go, for in this example, from the car to walk into the line to order. What are the things that would need to happen in order for that to make sense, or for that person to be motivated to do so. So these are going to be different for every brand, and there may not be as many stages here. But for example, we work a lot with higher education institutions, so it may be that someone would request information, so that would be their first step. So what is the content that's needed for them to actually want to request that information? In the higher ed space, it would be something like the course curriculum, or it could be financial aid information. So we would identify all of that in that content gap. And that actually does include things like if the content exists on the current site, and then whether or not it can be found. That's another key piece. And then if it requires any changes, or basically it's changes to actually make it a little bit more ideal to be able to move those people through that journey. So that we're going to talk a little bit more about content gap analysis in our next webinar about content strategy, but I think it's a really good time to kind of introduce this. And for those who are looking for a little bit more on content gap analysis between now and then, simple Google search will give you a lot of really great information. I'll be happy to answer more questions about it too.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, I hope we're showing that these things are building off each other. Personas to customer journey mapping to content gap analysis, content strategy.
Yes.
Now, before we kind of wrap things up, I would like to introduce some customer journey technology. Won't spend too much time here, but just want to let you know that it exists and it is out there, really to take the experience of journey mapping from beyond kind of your piece of paper that you might have taped by your desk. So many advanced content management systems, your Sitecore, Episerver, Ken2Go, are incorporating customer journey tools into their dashboards. We expect to see more of this in coming releases. At SilverTech here, mentioned Thunderhead, they have rolled out this one engagement hub, and it's a layer to build a fully functioning customer operating system. It gives you a dashboard like this, almost like a customer journey, but like brought to life, visualized by the data. Like I said, I won't dive too deep into what it does, but if you would like to learn more about this, we'd be happy to schedule a demonstration of this customer journey technology. So again, as we're wrapping up here, it's important to remember that a customer journey map is not to remain a static document. To really put it to meaningful use, you must use your map as a model against which you can actually understand the actual customer journey. And once more from Thunderhead, the role of the organization is to enable each customer to move from interaction to interaction seamlessly, while delivering value at each stage of their personal journey. And this is the essence of a customer-managed journey. Next up, we'll be talking about how to develop a content marketing strategy. In your email, I will also be sending along a link to register for the next webinar, and that will be Thursday, April 20th, another 30-minute session like today. Hope you can join us. Sam, any closing thoughts you'd like to share?
No. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. If you do think of any questions, please feel free to reach out. Our contact information is right here on the screen. More than happy to answer anything we can for you. And if you did miss that Personas webinar, that is available on our site for immediate download. So if you want to catch up there, and we hope to see you all again for our our content strategy webinar next month.
Yes, part 3.
All right, excellent.
The journey continues.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you so much.